Okay, we begin with that breaking news this morning. It's hard to even process a deadly shooting in Pensacola, Florida at a naval air station. At least 4 people killed, including the gunman. I want to go to Pierre Thomas in Washington with more. Pierre, if you can just give us the latest on what happened here.
So we're just finishing up a briefing in which the commanding officer of the naval station, as well as local law enforcement, spoke. And they said that this incident began around 6:20 a.m. Police responded about 6:50. What we know is that a total of 11 people were shot. 4 of them, unfortunately, are deceased. 1 includes the shooter. 8 people were taken to a local hospital. 7 people are still currently being treated there. Unfortunately, 1 of those people died. Again, a total of 4 people killed, 1 including the shooter. The law enforcement officials say that they got there as soon as they can. This whole incident took place in and around a classroom. They were not more specific than that. The shooter was neutralized, according to the authorities, by 2 deputies who engaged the shooter in gunfire. They have not identified the shooter thus far, but that whole community is grieving with this tragic event, Kim.
Absolutely. And Pierre, I imagine they don't know exactly why this happened at this point.
No information on motive. They have declined to name the shooter, give any information about the shooter and why this might have happened. But they do emphasize that had it not been for law enforcement getting there as quickly as they did, they do believe that there would have been more loss of life.
Yeah, and Pierre, if we just take a step back, I mean, this is, as I said, it's hard to process because this is another day, another shooting this week at a naval facility. How are people supposed to process all of this?
Well, the country is in the midst of a expanding phenomenon, increasing number of incidents where armed suspects are showing up in public places, trying to kill as many people as possible. We've seen just in this year alone, the Walmart, Texas, El Paso, Texas shooting, the shooting at the Bar District in Dayton, Ohio, at a Virginia Beach Government Center, people shot and killed in a mass shooting there. Houses of worship, schools in recent years, movie theaters, shopping centers. No location has been spared. This happening even as the overall crime rate and rate of violent crime has gone down in recent years. This particular phenomenon, people showing up in public places trying to kill people, is something new and disturbing to law enforcement.
Absolutely. A very tragic situation there. Thank you, Pierre, for the updates. We appreciate it. And guys, we're staying in Washington. A major announcement from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi yesterday. After months of resisting, she officially began the process to draft articles of impeachment for President Trump. So I want to bring in Mona Kosar-Abdi at the White House, and we have Catherine Falders in our Washington bureau. And Catherine, I'll start with you because there are hearings on Monday. So I just want you to tell us what to expect and who we're going to be hearing from.
Okay, so the hearing on Monday is going to be this presentation of evidence, is what they're calling it. Now, the Judiciary Committee announced this hearing, but we're going to hear presentations from the lawyers on the House Intelligence Committee, the main committee that conducted all of the public hearings and the depositions behind closed doors, and from lawyers on the House Judiciary Committee. And what that says to me, the importance of that the judiciary lawyers are participating in this briefing. You see Jerry Nadler right there. But what it says is that they are considering an article of impeachment about obstruction, but as it relates to the Mueller report. You remember Judiciary was the committee that conducted the Mueller investigation. So we'll likely hear more about that. We don't have too many details yet how long these presentations are going to last, but we'll see a lot of the same lawyers who we saw presenting their evidence, and then shortly thereafter, they'll begin drafting articles.
Yes, so it's certainly moving forward. And Mona, the White House still has until 5 p.m. today to let the committee know if it will participate in this process, correct?
And that's right. But if you remember, the White House already opted out of participating in the Judiciary Committee's first public hearing that happened this week. So it's likely that they will opt out of participating in future proceedings as well. So with impeachment all but certain, right now it seems that the president is looking past the House and has his sights set on the Republican-controlled Senate, as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi yesterday announced that she instructed House Democrats to go ahead and draft up articles of impeachment. The president took to Twitter to declare, quote, "If you're going to impeach impeach me, do it now, do it fast. And it's something that will likely happen before the end of the year, if not before Christmas. And it's something that House Republicans have actually criticized Democrats for doing. They accuse Democrats of trying to speed roll through this impeachment process. We heard from House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy yesterday, who said that the Democrats are trying to move fast because they're afraid that they will not be able to beat Donald Trump come November 2020 in the general election. But the White House has said that the president's team is looking forward to, quote, a fair trial in the Senate where the president can fully make his case. And honestly, it's in both parties' interest to have a speedy Senate trial, given that 2020 is such an important year. You have the State of the Union, you have the primaries, and you have to remember also that three of the presidential candidates on the Democratic side are Senate Democrats as well, Kimberly.
Yeah, and Catherine, in the meantime, Rudy Giuliani is back in Ukraine, and I guess the question is, doing what?
Yeah, so Giuliani back in Ukraine. He's meeting with Ukrainian officials, some of whom have come up in this impeachment probe. And he's doing this as part of a documentary series that is essentially to discredit the impeachment probe. He's working on it with the far-right station One American News. So he's over there today. We think he's leaving this afternoon. But the other thing, this raises a lot of questions because the House Intelligence Committee has already subpoenaed Rudy Giuliani for documents as it relates to his work in Ukraine. So likely hearing a lot more questions raised by Democrats as to why he's over there.
All right, Catherine Falders in our D.C. bureau and Mona Kosar-Abdi at the White House. Thank you guys for the updates. And in the meantime, House Democrats demanding another investigation, this time into the heartbreaking death of a 16-year-old migrant teen who died from the flu while in U.S. Customs and Border Protection custody. The CBP saying he was found unresponsive, but a disturbing and shocking new ProPublica video shows a different account of the young boy's final moments. Our Matt Gutman is in Los Angeles with more details. Matt?
Growing outrage over this disturbing new video uncovered by ProPublica of the final moments of 16-year-old Carlos Vasquez's life in a Border Patrol cell. Nearly a week after crossing the border into the U.S., Vasquez from Guatemala was determined to have the flu by a nurse practitioner at this Texas processing facility. His fever, 103 degrees. He was supposed to be checked again in 2 hours, then brought to the emergency room if his condition worsened. But Vasquez is taken to a quarantine facility. He and his cellmate, who also has the flu, seen here sleeping on cement slabs with those space blankets for bedding. For nearly 30 minutes, the cell block camera captures Vasquez writhing in pain, wearing a surgical mask before he falls to the floor next to the cell's door. He then manages to drag himself to the toilet before collapsing again. The video, which Border Patrol later gave to the local police investigating Vasquez's death, goes black for the next 4 hours. During the gap, records show an agent logged welfare checks. But when the video returns, Vasquez's cellmate wakes to find him dead and alerts the guards.
All right, thank you, Matt. Pretty disturbing. And to continue this conversation, I want to bring in Denise Bell with Amnesty International. And Denise, I'll just start. What did you make of this video when you saw it? You know, because we learned about his death earlier. Now there's these new details.
Well, first of all, I want to extend my condolences to his family. I mean, this is heartbreaking. This is a tragedy that was entirely preventable, and it's at the hands of the U.S. government.
Yeah, so who is held to account for these deaths, because there's been more deaths of children who have been in custody at the border as well?
Well, this goes first and foremost to this administration because it has implemented relentlessly policies that seek to punish children and others coming here seeking safety. So it set up this situation through a series of policies and lack of planning. The actual agency is Customs and Border Protection, and that's where children and adults and families are held, detained actually, when they first arrive in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think what's disturbing here is that you had one account before, and we have to remind everyone this was a treatable disease, the flu. So you have one account, and then you see the video, and something completely different has happened here.
Exactly. Like, this is the flu. Everybody gets the flu. It is a dangerous disease. It is entirely treatable. And so when you see this video, you say, this did not have to happen. This was callousness. This was indifference, perhaps, or else it just also the policies. They didn't set up anything to protect children who are coming here who might have diseases.
Yeah, so on ABC News Live yesterday, Congresswoman Karen Bass, she called this state-sponsored homicide and said it's a result of racist immigration policies. What do you make of her comment?
I think that's in line with what Amnesty International has been saying, that there is a relentless hostility to people seeking safety here. Many of those people do come from Central America, not exclusively, but instead of treating people with dignity, compassion, and fairness, we lock them up, we don't treat illnesses, and we make sure we put in policies that send them back to the places where they'll be harmed.
So you visited many of these facilities before, and you know, impeachment has largely overshadowed this conversation, but what do you want people to remember about this humanitarian crisis happening down there?
That we as a country have an obligation, and it fits with our shared values, to treat people with dignity, fairness, and compassion when they come here and ask for asylum. They are seeking safety. They are doing what any of us would do in their shoes.
Yeah, it's a tragic situation.
Yes.
For sure. Yes. Denise, thank you for being with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And guys, we move to the constantly changing 2020 race. With Kamala Harris officially dropping out this week, the diversity of the candidates on the next debate stage will be, well, non-existent. But things are getting heated with the front runners that remain, especially former Vice President Joe Biden. So our Whit Johnson is on the ground in Manchester, New Hampshire with more there. Whit?
Hey, Kimberly, Biden insists he did not lose his temper in the confrontation, but that town hall voter clearly touched a nerve, attacking Biden about his age, about his son Hunter. The first words out of the former vice president's mouth, "You're a damn liar." Here's part of that heated exchange. Take a listen.
I've got two problems with you. One is you're damn near as old as I am. You're too old for the job. I got a question I want you to answer. We all know Trump has been messing around in the Ukraine over there, but you, on the other hand, sent your son over there to get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience with gas or nothing, in order to get access for the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he was. So
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that. No one has proved that.
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV.
All I got to do is watch
No, I know you do. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an IQ test, okay? All right. Number one. Number two, no one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
The Trump campaign, of course, seizing on this moment, posting on Twitter, the wheels have officially fallen off the No Malarkey bus. That a reference to the Joe Biden bus tour in Iowa. Other headlines on the campaign trail making news here in New Hampshire later today. Both Senator Elizabeth Warren and Mayor Pete Buttigieg will be here with dueling events. They continue to spar over a variety of issues, including health care, free college tuition, even things like transparency and campaign fundraising and their time in the private sector. Also, later this weekend, Joe Biden will be back here in New Hampshire, hosting several events with his latest key endorsement and friend, former Secretary of State John Kerry. Kimberly?
All right, Whit, thank you for that. And a dramatic scene in Florida yesterday. A botched robbery at a jewelry store in Coral Gables led to hijacking of a UPS truck and a police shootout in a high-speed chase. In the end, 4 people, including the 2 suspects, were killed. And our Victor Okendo is on the ground there with more. Victor, this is hard to imagine this happening in broad daylight, but it did. How did this all go down?
Kimberly, it all came to a deadly end right here behind me. You can actually see this scene still taking over this very busy intersection. You've got FBI investigators all over this intersection right now, and you can actually see somebody wearing a full white bodysuit there in the driver's seat of that UPS truck that was involved. The entire side of it just riddled with bullet holes. You've had investigators out here since yesterday afternoon trying to piece this one all together. 4 people are dead after this dramatic high-speed chase came to an end in a hail of gunfire. You had this moment captured by people stuck in traffic as dozens of officers from multiple agencies swarmed that UPS truck, firing round after round. It started at a jewelry store in Coral Gables, where the suspects exchanged gunfire with the store's owner, injuring one woman inside. They took off, carjacking that truck and taking the driver with them. The FBI says the suspects were firing at officers as they tried to get away. And when it was all over, both suspects, the UPS driver and an innocent bystander, were killed. A lot of questions for law enforcement right now. The stepfather of that UPS driver's name is Frank Ordonez. That stepfather tells me he feels his son was murdered, and he wants a lot of answers. Kimberly?
Yeah, so the investigation continues, correct?
Yeah, the FBI has totally taken over this investigation right now, and they've got their work cut out for them. This spans across 2 counties here in South Florida, and we're talking about, they're 30 miles apart. This is going to take some time. They have a lot of video and evidence to review. Kimberly?
All right, Victor, absolutely horrific. Thank you for the details. And guys, it's become a ubiquitous part of the Times, taking a ride share. But in its first ever safety report, Uber reveals nearly 6,000 incidents of sexual assault for both riders and drivers across the U.S. in 2017 and 2018. And our Gio Benitez is here in New York City with more details on this. Gio?
Hey there, Kimberly. Uber is calling it a first-of-its-kind report. For years, Uber and other ride-sharing apps have been harshly criticized with allegations that they've not done enough to protect passengers and drivers. Uber is one of the most popular ride-sharing apps in the world, but this morning, the company opening up about sexual misconduct in its new safety study, revealing more than 3,000 reported sexual assaults across the company's 1.3 billion rides last year. Uber pointing out that drivers and riders were both attacked and that some assaults occurred between riders. The report part of the company's effort to be more transparent after years of criticism over its safety record. In a statement, Uber's CEO said, "Some people will appreciate how much we've done on safety. Others will say we have more work to do. They will all be right." Just last month in Connecticut, a woman sued Uber claiming she was sexually assaulted by her driver.
I was in the backseat and I woke up and he was in the backseat.
In 2017, we spoke to 2 Florida women who filed a proposed class action lawsuit against Uber, claiming they were sexually assaulted by their Uber drivers. Both women asked us to distort their voices and obscure their faces.
My life is a mess. I can't concentrate. I get anxiety.
Authorities say in New York City, 32-year-old Sean Williams invited a teenage passenger into his Uber to go drinking with him and drive to his home, where prosecutors claim he planned to sexually assault her. Now, Uber says it has tripled the size of its safety team over the past 2 years and that they've already banned more than 40,000 drivers. They also say that they're going to share that data with other companies to make sure that those apps also ban those drivers. Kimberly?
All right, Gio. So, guys, we move on to a conversation that got lots of people on the interwebs talking last week. In an interview, 82-year-old actor Billy D. Williams said he identifies and sees himself as both masculine and feminine, which resulted in headlines saying he was gender fluid. The thing is, he has no idea what that actually means. At least that's what he told the Undefeated's Kelly Carter, who joins me now. Kelly, it's really good to see you. I've been wanting to have this conversation. We'll just start with, what does the term mean, and what does it mean for black man to exist in a space where things aren't so black and white?
Yeah, well, first off, Billy D. Williams, you have to think about this. He's 82 years old, and he's been in Hollywood for the last 6 decades. And for the last 6 decades, he's really been like the poster child, the definition of black masculinity. And so that's really why that headline kind of spiraled and became like a really big deal, that he was coming out as gender fluid. But the trick of it is, he has no idea what that even means. What he was actually referencing was a psychiatrist theory from years ago, Carl Jung, that in every man and in every woman there is a feminine quality and a masculine quality, and that he was really imploring men, especially men who looked up to him, being this bastion of masculinity, to embrace their feminine side. And somehow that got a little bit remixed, and people kind of celebrated this kind of iconic symbol of masculinity, and certainly this Hollywood legend. who was, saying that he was gender fluid. And gender fluid, for a lot of people who don't know, and there are so many people who are unfamiliar with what that means, it's not in relation to sexual orientation. It is really someone who decides to use pronouns they as opposed to he, she, her, and him. And so that's where the confusion kind of lied, and it became a really big story. And here we are talking about it right now.
Yes, it's certainly important to be educated. But I want to ask you, do you think at his age now that he would even be comfortable saying he was gender fluid if in fact he was, or separately, if he was in fact gay, for instance? Do you think he would be comfortable coming out and saying something like that at his age?
I mean, who knows, to be honest with you? I think we've seen a number of examples of people later in life, talking about their truths and living in their truths and walking in their truths. So it's really just an individual thing. But I mean, he was very firm, even though he, mistakenly conflated sexual orientation with gender fluidity, that he is very much heterosexual, even though, he's like, I have no problem with gay people. Gay people are great. I just am not one of them. And I didn't want anything that I said to be misconstrued in that way.
Yeah, so Kelly, Billy D. Williams, he was obviously celebrated when people thought he was gender fluid. But Dwyane Wade's son, on the other hand, and his family received a lot of criticism when they posted a picture from Thanksgiving showing that his son was expressing himself and being free and wearing what he wanted to wear.
Yes. It's unfortunate because he's a kid, and I don't know why people would say anything negative or mean-spirited about any human being, but most certainly a small child. That just seems very inappropriate and just unkind.
What do you make of, because I thought it was really amazing, you have a black father supporting his black son in this way, which you don't see very much because there is a lot of homophobia in communities of color.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, Dwyane Wade is an excellent parent, and he is really who every parent should really strive to be, and that is supporting and loving your children, regardless of who they are and who they become. And I think that is to be championed, and that is to be celebrated. And to see that level of support by someone that is so beloved in such a masculine discipline that is sports, I think is a major step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Kelly Carter with The Undefeated, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. And guys, just when you think there's nothing good happening in the world on a regular basis, there always is. Take this 5-year-old who showed up to his adoption hearing with his foster parents, and let's just say he was surrounded with more love than one could ever imagine. Our Steve Osinsami is in Atlanta with more. Steve?
Kimberly, in Kent County, Michigan, there are 36 children who are celebrating their first day with their forever families. This is one of those stories that underlines, shows, proves where happiness will live, and that is in the heart of a child on adoption day. This is the moment that 5-year-old Michael Clark had been waiting for as long as he can remember.
He is a very active and silly kindergartner.
It was adoption day at the Kent County Courthouse in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he invited all of his classmates to join him for his big moment. Crowded in the courtroom, it was kindergarten strong with their paper hearts.
My name's Steven and Michael's my best friend.
As they witnessed his foster parents legally and officially welcome Michael into their family.
It is ordered, Michael, that your forever mom and dad will be David Andrew Eaton and Andrea Louise Melvin.
The kids from his elementary school make it an especially powerful moment.
1, 2, 3.
His new father had trouble keeping it together.
The workers there have just been amazing.
I love my daddy.
Wow.
Love my daddy so much.
This is just too much. Yeah, it's been amazing, obviously, how supportive they've all been.
I love my daddy too much.
You love him too much?
These are new pictures this morning from their first night as a new family, a home filled with all the love in the world.
You've been a welcome part of our family, haven't you, Michael?
And I love this family. I love my dada, mama.
This was the first child these parents had ever fostered, and they tell us as soon as they could adopt him, they did. On any given day in America, there are nearly 500,000 children who are in foster care waiting and hoping for adoptive families like this one. Kimberly?
Steve, that is beautiful. If that doesn't put a smile on your face, I really don't know what will. All right, guys, continue to take care of yourselves. It's Friday, and if you're around, you can stick around for the briefing room at 3:30 p.m. Then you can check out World News Prime at 8 p.m. And if you want to stay updated on all of these headlines, you can go to abcnews.com or download the app. Have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you next week.